Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to the Scharf Show here on 99.1 FM WIUX. I am your host, Josh Scharf. And it's been an exciting 2 weeks. We did not have a show last week. I was feeling a tad under the weather. So we got a lot to catch up on. It was a great 2 weeks of sports. I had my fun, a lot of basketball, whether it be college or NBA, hockey, baseball, spring. We're back at spring training, baby. We're having a good time. We're having a great time. And we usually start off with the NFL, and we're kind of doing that because we're going to start off with some breaking news. So it's always fun to start off with a little breaking news, I feel like I'm like Ian Rappaport on the scene. Selling you people something you really don't know. But Carson Wentz today, in fact about 5 to 10 minutes ago, was officially released from the Washington Commanders, saving them over $20 million on the cap for this coming year. This was very a likely scenario with Wentz, as it seems like they are either going to draft a QB or, from what it sounded like with Bieniemy, their new offensive coordinator, is they're going to go with Sam Howell at quarterback for this next coming season. So Wentz, with the money he makes and the amount of money they could save by cutting him, it was an inevitability. But besides that, there is not a lot really going on in the NFL right now. You're in that kind of lull with the franchise tag window is open, but you don't really get the action until it closes. And free agency is about 2 weeks away. So we'll pick it up in the next couple shows. We'll come back to the NFL, but nothing really going on. So we're going to move on to, there was a trade deadline coming up, I believe. And there was a lot of action that just happened in the NHL last night. Boy, oh boy, were there a bunch of trades. And even this morning, there was a trade involving the Maple Leafs and the Blackhawks. But we're going to go back all the way to 2 weeks ago. We are going to start with the trade that gets Ryan O'Reilly to the Toronto Maple Leafs, from the St. Louis Blues. So the official trade is Ryan O'Reilly goes to the Toronto Maple Leafs with Noel Acciari and Josh Pilar. The Blues will get Adam Gaudette, Mikhail Abravam. I'm botching that. I'm sorry, but so it's hard some names. I'm telling you, it's hard some names. 2023 first, 2023 third, 2024 second, and then the Wild, for retaining some of O'Reilly's salary, get a 2025 fourth round pick. With the way the East is shaping up, this is a great trade for the Maple Leafs. They gave up a lot. I'm not going to lie. They gave up a lot for Ryan O'Reilly. Is it a lot? Like I said, it's a lot. I'm going to say it again. It's a lot for a guy who is not known for really putting up, or at least in the past couple years, he's not a big goal scorer. He's not a points guy. At least he hasn't been for a little bit now. For right now, in the total season, he's played 3 games with Toronto. He has 5 points. He's played very well. But for the season and 45 games, he has 24 points, 15 goals, and 9 assists. He hasn't really. Last year, he had 58 points in 78 games, so it's been kind of 2 years since the 2020-2021 season, where he had 54 points in 56 games. He hasn't really been at that point per game or close to it level. So giving up what they gave up in Gaudette, Abramov, a first, a third, a second, and a fourth, it's a lot to give up. It's a lot. But with the way the arms race is shaping up in the Eastern Conference, and the way the gauntlet of the Eastern Conference is going to be compared to the West, which looks like so much easier if there was a good team in the West to get through than the East. because the East is going to be a bloodbath. This is a good getting O'Reilly for a playoff run, especially when you're talking about Toronto's playoff history, is a very good deal. He's not going to bring that point per game aspect, especially this part of his career, but he's going to bring other things. He's a natural born leader. He was the captain for the Blues. He was on that Stanley Cup run with the Blues. He's always in the Lady Byng conversation. Always. He's finished in the last, oh my God, in the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Out of 9 years, he's finished in the top 10. 7 of those years. And last year he finished 11th. So he's a very good locker room guy. He's going to bring that playoff experience, that playoff kind of toughness. He can play the physical game. He can get down into the dirty areas and go dig the puck out and win puck battles. That's the kind of guy Ryan O'Reilly's going to be. And I think that is a big part of what you could use in Toronto is a player like that, because they're the kind of players that come up big in the postseason. And that's the players they've been missing, Toronto, to get out of not just the playoffs, but just get out of the first round. Not just to make a Stanley Cup run, but just to get out of the first round, for Christ's sake, for Toronto. They can't win a playoff series. So I think in the end it was a lot, but this is kind of a player that you're looking for Toronto. Obviously a guy like Bo Horvat, Timo Meier would have been nice, or Jacob Chikrin. But I think they have talent. They have the top-end talent. It's now looking for that veteran kind of leadership. And O'Reilly does have a lot of talent. I'm not saying that. But he has the intangibles and the playoff kind of attributes that may not look as sharp in the regular season, but really shine in the playoffs. And I think that is something that Toronto heavily needed. All right. Moving on to the next big trade. It was the Rangers. They kept going. They got Tyler Mott from the Senators for Julien Gauthier and a 7th. Absolute steal for Tyler Mott. This is a guy who's just going to play. He plays on your 4th line. He's not going to eat up a lot of minutes. Really, he's gonna do what his role is, and he's going to play his role on the 4th line very well. He's going to be a grinder, and he's going to be able to perform well in the playoffs. He's a guy who performs well he's just a savvy veteran. That's I think the best word for it. A savvy veteran who you want on your team, and they gave up virtually nothing to get him. You would think a guy like Mott's not going to get a huge package, but maybe like a 4th or a 5th, and like a 5th and a 7th, and giving up Gauthier and a 7th is a drop in the bucket. So that's a great deal for the Rangers. Then moving on, we got the Bruins. This was February 23rd. Sitting at the best record in hockey. Well, again, like I say in the East, most of these teams that are making trades, guess where they are? The East, because it's an arms race. It is an arms race in the East. They traded with the Capitals, as the Capitals could not come to an extension with Dmitry Orlov, so they trade him to the Boston Bruins. Him and Garnett Hathaway. For the Washington Capitals, they get Craig Smith, Andrei Stelikov, a 2023 first, a 2024 third, a 2025 second, and for retaining some salary, Minnesota again, they get a 2023 5th round pick. And for the Bruins, this is an awesome trade. Dmitry Orlov is a very good player. Was a great player that the Caps were looking to try to extend, but they couldn't come to terms on the years, really. I think Orlov wanted like a 5 or 6 year extension, and the Capitals were only willing to go up to 3 years. He is 31. He's played a multitude of years. Since all of his years, he's played 11 of them have been with Washington. He puts up around 30 points per game, is very good defensively, good puck-moving defenseman. To add to that, defensive core. He's a very tough kind of guy, kind of grinder, and he's going to pair well on that second or third pair defensive line. It just proves how much Boston is preparing. This Boston team is an absolute unit. Up front, in the back end, with Omar in the goaltender spot, there's not many holes whatsoever. And for a team that you didn't think could get much better, they got a lot better at the deadline. For the Capitals' perspective, I mean, it's not ridiculous. I know you're still fighting for a wild card spot, but you might as well get something for him if you knew he was going to leave. And getting a first, a third, a second, and two players like a Craig Smith and a Stelikov, it's really not bad. They also give up Garnet Hathaway, though. Hathaway's a great fourth liner for the Bruins. You know, just another guy who's going to be a grinder on that fourth line who can eat minutes. You know, may not play every day, only play 10 minutes when he's in there. Just another guy you can add to the rotation. So I love this move from the Bruins. From the Capitals' perspective, it's a tough move to make, but at least you get something for Orlov. Then we move on to February 25th, and one of I think the biggest steals so far of this trade deadline era was Nito Niederreiter. He gets sent to the Winnipeg Jets from the Nashville Predators. In exchange, the Predators get a 2024 second-round pick, and you would think Niederreiter would go for a little bit more. I'm not saying he would go for 2 firsts, but a second and a prospect or two, or a second, a fourth, and a prospect. You expected a little more. In 56 games, he has 18 goals, 10 assists for 28 points, had 44 points last year in 75 games. So a nice veteran who's going to be probably a third line kind of winger, middle six winger, who's going to put up some points and be a difference maker in the middle of this Jets lineup, who's really trying to make a playoff push, and can really do something special in the playoffs in the West, because there's no real juggernaut in the Western Conference. So I love this deal from the Winnipeg side. From the Nashville side, I think you should have got way more. I don't understand why you gave up on Niederreiter so quickly. I think you definitely, if you wait a little more, you asked for more, you could have definitely got something more. So a head scratcher from Nashville, but don't worry, they will make up for it. By the time we're done talking about this trade deadline, they definitely make up for it. And then came yesterday. And yesterday there were 2 big deals that ended up going down. The first one, you see this that involves if you can't see, if you're not watching this on YouTube, it involves my New Jersey Devils, baby. They get the best player on the market. That's right, Timo Meier is going to the New Jersey Devils. It's Timo time. It's Timo time. They get Meier with 50% of his contract for this year, and this is a doozy. This deal took hours to announce. You know, I'm refreshing Twitter every 2 minutes. What is the deal? What did we give up? Did we give up Mercer? There was a report yes, and I started freaking out. Then it was no, we didn't give up Mercer. Did we give up Holtz? Did we give up Sharangovich? Did we give up Severson? Oh, wait, well, there may be an injury, a player that might be injured that's throwing a wrench into it. Was that Blackwood? It was just speculation galore. And finally, the details came out. Meier, 50% retained, with prospects Timur Ibragimov, excuse me. God, some of these names, there should be a contest on like trying to get names from different countries and just try to pronounce them. It'd be entertainment, I'm telling you. It'd be entertainment. Prospect Santeri Akata and goaltender prospect Zachary Amon. And then you got depth defenseman Scott Harrington and a 2024 fifth in exchange. 13 pieces, by the way. So this is a doozy. In exchange, San Jose Sharks get Andreas Janssen, Fabian Zetterlund, Nikita Ohochuk, Shakir Mukumadulin, a 2023 first, a 2024 second round pick that has conditions on it, and a 2024 seventh. The conditions are if the Devils make the Eastern Conference Finals this year or the next year, and Meyer plays 50% of those games in the playoffs, that second becomes a first. So, overall, Devils give up a hefty haul to get Timo Meyer, a couple prospects just to even out the contracts, and Scott Harrington, a depth defenseman, who maybe if you need somebody to fill in, kind of similar to a Brendan Smith, but maybe not as good as a Brendan Smith, kind of like a 7-8 defenseman role. So if you don't want to put Ball in, or another young kid like a Walsh, you don't want to bring him up, you want to bring kind of a veteran, it'd be Scott Harrington. Overall, this trade, from the Devils' perspective, as a Devils fan, I am in love with this deal. I am in love with this deal. This is an A deal for the New Jersey Devils. You didn't give up Mercer. You didn't give up Sharon Govich. You didn't even give up Holtz. You did not give up Holtz, which I thought you had to give up Holtz to go get a guy like Timo Meyer. You give up Andreas Janssen, who is a nice piece, but he's playing in the NHL. He has no value to the New Jersey Devils. Maybe he can turn his career around back in San Jose. He's going to be a free agent. They'll probably call him up, see if he can do anything. The biggest piece that you lose, in my opinion, is Fabian Zetterlund. Fabian Zetterlund is probably, for his career, he's a young guy right now, young kid. He's going to be a middle six defensive, very good defensive winger who could put up probably 30 to 40 points per season. It's tough, and he played well this year. It's a tough loss, I'm not going to lie. It hurts. But that is a guy that you can replace. That is a guy, you got guys in your system with like a Graham Clark, with hopefully a Nolan Foote, with Alexander Holtz. These are guys that you should come into the lineup. A Tice Thompson, who can come into the lineup and hopefully do the job that Fabian Zetterlund was doing for you. So while it hurts, you do this every day. You have to do this every single day because you can replace a guy like Fabian Zetterlund. And his ceiling wasn't a top six winger. It's a middle six winger. He's not going to be an elite guy for San Jose. I can guarantee you that. They also give up Nikita Hochuk. Just a guy, a solid, probably could be a solid fit, a third pairing defenseman, physical defenseman. But just with the amount of defensive prospects and the amount of guys in front of him on the depth chart, he had no place here. Similar to kind of like how Walsh is. There's just nowhere for him to go. So you might, if San Jose wants him, that's a piece you're more than willing to give up. Shakir Mukumadulin is probably in the same boat with like a Hotiuk and Riley Walsh. Except probably he's the headline prospect of this deal. He's probably a top 5 prospect. But again, with Nemetz, with Luke Hughes, with Seamus Casey, and with the defenseman you already have on your roster, you don't really need a Mukumadulin. So you're perfectly okay with shipping him. 2 firsts is a lot. I'm hoping it's 2 firsts. But when you're not giving up a Holtz, a Seamus Casey, a Nemetz or a Hughes, or a Mercer, or Sharon Govich, you're going to have to give a little more on the draft pick side, and I'm perfectly okay with that. This is a slam dunk home run deal by the Devils to go get Timo Meyer, who's an absolute stud, goal-scoring power forward, is a power play machine, does it all. He's going to come in, I would put him on with Nico Hischier, as he has that Swiss chemistry, Swiss chemistry. Now the Devils have 4 Swedes on their team, which is kind of crazy how many Swedes we have. The Devils have. Right now for the season, he has 31 goals, 21 assists for 52 points in 57 games on that terrible Sharks team. This is a slam dunk for the Devils. An absolute slam dunk, home grand slam of a deal. I'm stoked. I'm absolutely stoked. And now you just got to re-sign him. You look like a cup contender now. You really do. From the San Jose side, you didn't get fleeced. It's not like you gave up. You didn't get anything for my getting 2 firsts probably, or first and a second is nice, because that wasn't expected. But you're definitely a little underwhelmed. You're a little underwhelmed. You wanted a Holtz. You wanted a Mercer. You wanted a Sharon Govich. You wanted somebody like that, a Hughes, a Nemetz, a Casey. You wanted one of the big guys, and you didn't land one of them. So that's the GM for the Sharks, Mike Grier, went for kind of more quantity over quality. And I like to be, I prefer to go the other way, but it's going to be a while until the Sharks are good, so maybe more darts at the board is not the worst thing in the world, but if I'm grading, it's an A for the Devils. I give it like a C plus for the Sharks. I mean, you did okay, but you definitely feel a little underwhelmed if you're the Sharks. Then, late last night, while that deal was still breaking because it took so long, right at the end of it, Tampa Bay, they get Tanner Jeannot from the Nashville Predators. And like I said before, the Nashville Predators didn't do great on their first deal, but they hit a home run in this deal, getting Cal Foote, a 2023 third, a 2023 fourth, a 2023 fifth, a 2022 second, and a 2025 first round pick, top 10 protected. So they get a first, a second, a third, a fourth, a fifth, and Cal Foote. That's a home run. And I know Tanner Jeannot's young, and he was a very good player for the Predators last year. But what they got was out of this world. Out of this world. And you got to give them an A++. A++ for what they got for Tanner Jeannot. It's just absolutely amazing. You think Jeannot maybe gets a first and a third with Cal Foote, but getting up a second, a fourth, and a fifth, that many shots at the dartboard. I know picks can be overvalued, but it's still shots at the dartboard. So I think you got to value them because they're also commodities that you could still move. It's not like a specific player yet. It could be anything, a pick. That's what makes it so enticing. So, but from Tampa Bay's perspective, he gave up a lot. It's a bit of a head-scratcher, but also we've seen head-scratching trades at the deadline from Tampa Bay before, giving up a lot. Not head-scratchers, but not like this at least, but pretty similar. And it always works out. Nick Paul, Hagel last year, Coleman. They've done this before, and it's worked out. So I'm curious to see how if Jeannot can bounce back after not really kind of having a sophomore slump this year with the Predators. I think it could. I think he will bounce back. I don't think to the level where this deal was worth it, but I think he'll contribute enough to say, hey, it wasn't as bad as we thought. I still think Nashville will end up winning this trade. And then we're going to move on to today. A couple of hours ago, the Maple Leafs, they strike again, and they try to solve their back end as Morgan Riley's out for the rest of the year and the playoffs. Huge loss for them. Well, they say, all right, let's go get Jacob McCabe from the Blackhawks and Sam Lafferty. They retained 50% of McCabe's salary, not just for this year, but for next year as well, to help keep them and help with their salary next year, which is absolutely huge. They also give them a fifth, or they also get 2 fifths, 2024 and 2025, both conditional. They give up Joey Anderson, Pavel Gogolov, a 2025 first-round pick, top 10 protected, and a 2026 second-round pick. I think this is a huge win for Toronto. I don't think he gave up too much for McCabe, and especially with them helping out on the salary cap for not just this year, but the next year as well, is huge, because it helps you keep not just help retain players not just this year, but for next year as well, which is something that they've struggled with for a while in Toronto with the salary cap. With the guys that you have, what you're paying, how many players you're paying, 10+ mil in Marner, in Matthews, in Tavares, and Nylander's contract, not to mention that as well. So this was a huge deal for a very solid top 4 defenseman who's going to do damage, who's going to be a solid player. Sam Lafferty is also a solid bottom 6 guy who's somehow been a very good finisher this year so far in front of net, but a solid guy who can kill penalties. Yeah, I love this deal for the Maple Leafs. From the Blackhawks' perspective, you get another first-round pick and a second. I think you probably could have got maybe like 2. It's tough because Tampa Bay doesn't have too many picks, so I probably would have asked for another prospect with it. But overall, it's not a terrible deal for the Blackhawks. Getting another first, getting another shot at the dartboard. They have a bunch of They have 2 first-round picks in the next 3 drafts now, which is pretty wild. It's pretty wild. So overall, it's been a busy busy trade deadline or week for the NHL. A lot of exciting deals. I'm curious to see how many deals actually go on the trade deadline. You still got Kane that could go. It looks like JVR is one name to watch out. I saw. So a lot of names still to go. But I've loved a lot of these trades, and I've definitely loved what my New Jersey Devils did. When we come back, IU basketball. They bring out the brooms, baby. They get a sweep on Purdue. We'll talk about that game and more when we come back on the Scharf Show here. 99.1 FM, WIUX. All right, welcome back to the Scharf Show here on 99.1 FM, WIUX. And start singing the fight song, baby. Indiana, 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 we're all for you. Woo! IU, for the first time in a long time. IU doesn't just go into Mackey and take the dub against their rival Purdue, but they get the season sweep. The sweep over their arch rival for the season, winning the first one earlier this month at Assembly Hall, and now winning on Saturday by a final score of 79-71. And it was an awesome game. It was an awesome game. It was tight throughout. Atmosphere was great at Mackey. Atmosphere was great in Indiana watching the game. But this just shows I am so confident now in this team, more because of this win than a lot of other wins. First off, because it's Purdue. Purdue's one of the best teams in the league that are in college basketball. They have a player that's unstoppable in Zach Edey. They can do a lot of things to you. They have a lot of good players, and they're a top 5 probably team in the country. And I don't think there's much disagreement with that. So, I am, first of all, for beating them is huge, and just sweeping them, and doing it at their place Saturday. Beating them at Mackey, which we haven't done in years. In years, this IU team has not done that. Then, we didn't get, Trace Jackson-Davis, especially in the first half, had no points. Had nothing. No points. And he did end with 10 points, 7 assists, and 8 rebounds. So he ended his final line wasn't awful, but they doubled him on everything. And, he was out of whack. He was out of rhythm. And, while I didn't expect him to have, because of the way he doubled him, 15 points at half, I expected him to be more of an impact in the first half. And the reason why I'm so confident now in this team, because that happened, and they didn't get phased. And Jalen Hood-Schifino stepped up, because Jalen Hood-Schifino is Jalen Him-Schifino. He is that dude. This is the game that's going to go back, and when you're looking at Jalen Hood-Schifino in April, in May, whenever the NBA draft is, this is the game they are going to point back to and say, this is why he became a lottery pick. This is the game that gets Jalen Hood-Schifino drafted in the lottery. He ended and played all 40 minutes. He ended with 35 points, 7 rebounds, and 2 assists? 2 assists. All right. Big stat line. I thought I couldn't tell if that was the steals or the assists. 2 assists. He was awesome. He was hitting everything. He went 14 of 24 from the field, 6 of 7 from the line, 1 of 2 from 3. His pull-ups were phenomenal. He was getting to the basket when he needed to. He hit that big 3 early in the first half, and he kept Indiana in this game in the first half. He is the sole reason we were in this game in the first half. He is. And there were other players that played great, and we'll get to them. But he is the sole reason that Indiana was in this game the first half. And that's what gives me so much confidence. That even when Trace Jackson-Davis didn't have a great half, had a terrible half, actually, Hoosiers still were down only 4. Down only 4. That's how confident. That's why I'm so confident in this team when tomorrow comes and it's March, baby. Because March is 2 days. 2 days away. We're 2 days away from March, baby. All right, now let's get to the second half. Trace finally starts feeling himself, starts rolling, starts making plays. He ends up with 10 points. And I want to talk Trace now because I think it was important for Trace to bounce back in his second half. I think this officially eliminates him from Player of the Year. Probably. I think it kind of cements. It was pretty hard for him to overpass Edey, but I think this cements Edey as the Player of the Year at the end of the day. But it doesn't really matter because Trace had a bad half, and he knew he had a bad half, and he comes back. And they didn't run as many plays for him. Apparently he said, "No, get the ball in Jalen's hands. This is Jalen's day. He's the hot hand." And that takes so much leadership and so much confidence, or not just maturity. That's the word. It takes so much maturity and leadership to say, "Nah, today's not my day. It's Jalen's day. I'll get some of my points. We can run some plays for me, but everything goes through Jalen today." And that is such a mature, and it shows how much he's really grown. Because I don't know 2 years ago or even last year if he does that. I think he forces. I think they say, "Hey, keep playing through me," and he tries to force shots that aren't there. And IU struggles and they lose this game. Instead, they play through Jalen. They still run plays for him, but it goes through Jalen. He picks it up a bit. He gets some points. He almost ends with a triple double. So they were collapsing on him, and he kept kicking it out to Trey Galloway or Miller Kopp, who both had fantastic games. Both of those guys ended with 13 points. This was an all-around performance, led by Jalen Hood-Schifino. We'll get now. Trey Galloway and Miller Kopp are huge. Trey Galloway especially because the ball handling that he's been able to do and the guard play was fantastic. The biggest reason we have such success over Purdue is because we dominate them in the guard play. Both Fletcher Lawyer and Braden Smith for them just had no answer to us in guard play. They're both freshmen. They'll both probably be decent players for Purdue, but they can't handle Galloway and they can't handle Schifino. They can't. It's a complete mismatch, and IU basically says, "All right, Edey, you're going to get yours, but nobody else is going to get theirs. You're going to get 20 points, 30 points, but nobody else is going to score in a lot of points," and that's correct. Fletcher Lawyer ended with 14 points. He was 4 of 12 from the field, had 6, but 4 of those were from free throws. Besides that, nobody had above 10. Edey had 26. First had 8. Braden Smith had 6. Morin had 3. And Newman had 8. Otherwise, there wasn't really anything going on there. So the fact that was the case was huge. It was absolutely huge for IU, especially when you're not getting. You didn't get a lot of points from the bench. Renew only ended with 2. He was in a lot of foul trouble for a lot of the game. Tamar Bates, while he didn't score, looked a lot better defensively today, I'll say. Because a lot of times he struggles on the defensive side. Recently, especially on road games, he's really struggled defensively. He's been struggling to hit shots, we know this. But your shot making, your offensive side, cannot affect your defensive presence. It can't. And I think that was the case against Purdue on Saturday, which is a huge thing to see from Tamar. Hopefully he can find a shot away from Assembly Hall, as you're going to need him when you want to come to March. But Trace just being a bigger man, maturing after having a bad first half, coming back, having a great second half. Hood-Schifino showing that he is a lottery pick. He's a top guard in college basketball, and he can really take over games when you need him to. This is an awesome win to really to get the sweep over Purdue, your arch rival. Hasn't happened. I think 2013 was the last time this happened. It's been at least 10 years. It's been a while since they won in Mackey. It's the first time Mike Woodson's won in Mackey because he lost there when he was playing there as a player every time. And this is only the second year he's coached at Mackey, and they lost last year. So huge, absolutely huge, and it keeps you in contention for a 3 seed, in my opinion. Keeps you in contention to get the double bye in the Big Ten tournament. It's absolutely huge, and ultimately with the rankings come out, IU moved from 17 to 15 in the college rankings, and now you got to move on. You got 2 games left, both at home. One at Iowa or versus Iowa tomorrow at Assembly Hall, and one on March 5th at Assembly Hall. Both games are must-wins. Must-wins If you win both of those, you are going to get a double bye for the Big Ten tournament, and it sets you up to probably lock in as a 4 seed and a chance to go get yourself a 3 seed in the NCAA tournament, which is absolutely huge. You want to be out of the 5, 12, and 6-11 matchups. Those are huge upsets alerts. If you're a 4 matchup, it keeps you out of that. You get to play a 13 seed. It's way less likely you get upset. It's just an easier time. If you can get the 3 seed, it's even better. Plus, then you get that 6-12 matchup as your second round, which could be an upset. Plus, you don't have to play the number 1 seed in your bracket till the Final Four. A 3 seed would be a dream. I don't think there's too much of a difference between a 3 seed and a 2 seed. Obviously, 1 seed is huge, but we're not going to get IU's not getting a 1 seed. So, but a 3 seed would be the dream, and I think it's definitely in reach for this team. Overall, it was a great weekend. It was a great weekend. And I know the Michigan State loss hurts, and we're not really going to talk about that just because of how big the Purdue game was, and it doesn't really affect you that much. That game's in the past. You beat Purdue. It doesn't really matter. And go beat Iowa. Go beat Michigan. Go take care of business going into the Big Ten tournament, and you're going to set yourself up for success in March. All right. When we come back, we got some NBA news to talk about. God, is Milwaukee hot? Because they are smoking. They've won 14 games in a row. That's right, 14 games. My Lord, we'll get back to that when we come back on the Scharf Show here on 99.1 FM WIUX. All right, welcome back to the Scharf Show here on 99.1 FM WIUX. And like I said, boy oh boy, Milwaukee Bucks, they aren't just hot. They are smoking, baby. Smoking. They are 10-0 in their last 10 games, and they've won 14 straight. Not 10, not 11, not 12. 14 straight, baby. Woohoo. That's hot. That's hot. A couple other hot teams. You know, Denver still number 1 in the West. They're 7-3 in their last 10. The Knicks have been playing really well recently. They're 8-2 in their last 10. They've won 5 in a row. Celtics have won 8-2 in their last 10. They've won 3 in a row. But nobody is even close to as hot as the Milwaukee Bucks. Giannis keeps doing his thing. He's still at over 30 points per game. Drew Holiday's almost up to 20 points per game. This team is a stud. This team knows it can score buckets when they need to. They have the guys who can space the floor when Giannis needs to drive to be able to kick out threes, and they are a stifling defensive team. They're a stifling defensive team. Their points per game are at about 115, basically 114.9, and their defense is 111.2. Those are very good numbers. Very good numbers. They have I think the 3rd best defense in the East, and overall actually the 3rd best defense in the league, I think. Hold on. Yeah, 3rd best defense in the league for points per game. That's wild that all 3 of those are in the East, but this is a very good team, and I think they're peaking towards. Could they be peaking too soon? It's a possibility, but I don't think so. I think they're just starting to get right. I think the more Middleton plays, the better this team is going to be. Are they gonna continue to win at this pace? Obviously not, but I think they do end up surpassing Boston and taking control of the East. Again, as Middleton continues to get better, this team is just going to be tougher and tougher to play against. He's hit double digits every game since January 31st. That'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. His last 8 games, he's hit double digits in all of them. He's gotten to 20 points in 2 of those. So he's really starting to get back into form. He's shooting about 48% from the field. So he's getting to that. The only thing he's really needs to start getting back is his 3-point percentage. He's only shooting 26% or 27% since in February. So that's the only thing of his game he really hasn't been able to get back since the injury. Once he gets this back, Milwaukee's just going to be even better. I think you're going to see the Chris Middleton of old. And this team is just going to be a tough out. Tough out. I don't see a team really competing. I have the Bucks coming out of the East. I think it's going to be very tough for somebody to overtake them. I think Boston could put up a fight. Cleveland's good. There's a lot of good teams, but what Milwaukee is doing, even for a regular season, is pretty crazy and is awesome to see. But you know what was awesome to see? Last night, Portland Trailblazers, they beat the Houston Rockets 131-114. You might be asking, why are we talking about two teams under 500 that are not going to make the playoffs? Why am I talking about this? Well, that's because Damian Lillard, he scored 71 points last night. Excuse me, what did he say? I said 71 points last night. 39 minutes he played. He went 22 of 38, 13 of 22 from three. Hit all 14 of his free throws for 71 points, 6 rebounds, 6 assists, and only 2 turnovers. What a class performance by Damian Lillard. I think it just goes to show how Damian Lillard is still, I think, one of the most underrated players in basketball. You have all these new young guys coming up who are making an impact, being a lot flat, being pretty flashy, and on great teams. And Damian Lillard stuck in Portland, doesn't get talked about as much, but is still one of the top players in this league. And somebody has to get him out of Portland. I know he's loyalty to Portland. I know he loves it there. I know he wants to win there. But I'm not saying to join a super team, but there's a time where it's time. This team is not going to win anytime soon. I mean, you see it in everything, in every sport where their team stinks. They're getting up there in age. They want to go win a championship. Lillard's not getting any younger. He's 32. He's going to turn 33 at the end of this year. I think it's time. I don't see Portland really being a championship contender for the rest of the time he's going to be in the league. He's been with the Blazers since the 2012-2013 season. He's been there a long time. You've paid your dues. Somebody's got to come trade for Damian Lillard, whether it be in the offseason. I know Stephen A. Smith wants him on the Knicks. I don't see that happening, but I think he can dramatically change a team, and I don't think he gets the respect he deserves. And seeing moments like this where he does start to get a lot of respect, he puts up 71 points, my lord. It's good to see. It's very good to see Damian Lillard start to get some respect. And I really wish somebody would trade for him because Portland's never done him any favors. And he's done them everything. He's done them absolutely everything. All right. Moving on to our last topic. We're going to shift from basketball a bit as we end up closing the show in a couple minutes. We'll move on to baseball for a bit because Manny Machado, who's probably the biggest hitter for next year's free agent class, along with Shohei Ohtani, as Devers got signed, well, he is officially off the free agent market. He was going to opt out. Well, the Padres said, no, you're staying. He signs an 11-year, $350 million contract. That's an annual average salary of $31.82 million per year, my lord. He's 30 right now, so that contract's going to run until he's 41. 41! Oh, my God. He got paid. I mean, paid. And good for Manny Machado. That contract, that back half, obviously those final probably 4 or 5 years is going to be brutal. But it locks him in. He's going to be a Padre for life now. And it keeps you that core of Bogarts, Tatis, and Machado. And it's going to keep them being a championship contender for years. I think it proves that Soto is not going to be a Padre after 2 years. I think Soto is going to have a small stint in San Diego, but it locks up your core and an MVP candidate that I don't think you could have let walk. I don't think you could afford to let Manny Machado walk. He's really, I think, the heart and soul of this team. I think Tatis is the biggest name, but I think, especially what happened with Tatis, I think Manny Machado, especially the season he had last year, is the heart and soul of this Padres lineup. So I just couldn't think you can let him go. I think he belonged in San Diego. And while the back half of that contract is going to suck, the first half of that contract's not bad at all. $31 million for the first 5-6 years. That he's gonna be a top third baseman for those years. He's gonna be an MVP candidate. He's gonna be a huge player for the San Diego Padres for years to come. And the other big storyline out of the MLB has been, since spring training has been back, the pitch clock. There was a game that ended. The pitch clock ended the game. Batter was not, quote, facing the pitcher, so he was called out on strike 3. And overall, people have been, is the pitch clock, should be put in the MLB? And I do think so. I think it's a good thing to have the pitch clock in. You've seen the average time for an MLB game cut down half an hour, just like that. So I like it. I think it adds a bit more strategy to the game for the pitchers on how they play it. The only thing I don't like is that the batters have to be set by a certain time. And if not, they get called a strike. I think they should be set by the 8 seconds, but if they're not, that's how long then the pitcher can pitch. If he's not set by then, the pitcher can pitch, and he can't call a timeout if he's not set. And so he could just get strike taken. I think that's a better rule. But overall, I think the pitch clock is going to be a good thing. You're going to see some infringements. I think it's probably just going to be similar to a shot clock in the NBA. You're going to see some violations, but I don't think ultimately it'll be too big of a deal. And ultimately, I think it's going to help the game in the long run. But that'll do it for this week's edition of the Scharf Show. Thank you guys so much for listening here on 99.1 FM WIUX, or if you're watching on YouTube on Scharf Sports Media. Thank you guys so much for listening. It was a great sports week. We got another great sports week coming up this week. More NHL, more basketball, college, and NBA. The NFL, we should start getting more and more news out of that. MLB spring training continues to kick into gear. And I'm just so excited to continue watching these sports. March Madness is so close, baby. It is so close. I can't wait for it. So thank you guys so much for listening and watching. This has been the Scharf Show on 99.1 FM WIUX. I have been your host, Josh Scharf. I will see you on the other side.